we're going to move on to the cabinet meeting that occurred today. These are, I believe all of these, with the exception of maybe one or two, are all going to come from Rapid Response. So I'm not going to repeat it over and over again. They all came from Rapid Response 47. And most of these are going to be quotes. So I'm basically just going to go from one to the next. These are the highlights from it. I could either just show the highlights, which is really all I got time for, or I could play the whole thing, which is probably like an hour or two long. So we're going to go through the highlights. And this appears to be his opening statement. We're here this morning for a cabinet meeting as my administration continues to deliver for the American people despite the radical left lunatics that shut down our government.
So we're here this morning for a cabinet meeting as my administration continues to deliver for the American people despite the radical left lunatics that shut down our government. You have Democrats that they've lost their way. They have no leadership. We don't even know who to deal with over there. At least they know who to deal with.
Oh yeah, man, they're in chaos.
No idea who we're dealing with over there.
Yeah, if you ask your everyday Democrat, there was a survey that was done from just everyday Democrat voters around the country, and they asked who they believe is the current leader of the Democratic Party, and the most common, most often answer was AOC, which is hilarious. And Senator Kennedy came out earlier today, which I have his post. I'm going to go through that here in a little bit, but according to him, he believes that Chuck Schumer is answering to AOC. That it sounds like they're working together closely enough to the point where she might end up replacing him in the Senate. Who knows? But anyway, let's continue.
It's like they have no idea what they're doing. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to reopen government at the same funding levels. We're not going to do anything only good for health care. We're really, I think, become the party of good health care. And they keep using health care as a cudgel. They want to try and get everyone thinking about healthcare. We're the ones that are saving healthcare.
Yeah, basically. And they want to give everybody healthcare, including illegal immigrants. But if you give healthcare to every single American with the hyperinflated cost of healthcare in America today, it's going to absolutely bankrupt our economy. Well, it's going to skyrocket inflation to the likes of which we've never lived through before. I mean, it's going to make COVID look like practically nothing. If they're to give unlimited free healthcare to every single person, it's psychotic. We don't even have the money to fund the federal government, man. They're dipping into our grandchildren's money, and it's at a rate of what, $2 trillion a year that they're spending above and beyond what they're taking in on taxes, revenue, tariffs, everything. It's psychotic. We don't have any money for it. There is no money for it. Absolutely no money for healthcare for all. It's lunacy. All right, and we got another one. Also, President Trump talking during his opening statement.
Momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. And,
okay, well,
it'll be
Monday or Tuesday, I guess.
I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there. And we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing.
All right. I'm going to move right on to the next one. This one is Secretary Rubio speaking.
I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved.
Look, man, the Democrats are seething over this. They're not going to say it out loud because they just can't. Well, I mean, hell, they're capable of anything at this point, but I don't think they're happy about this at all. They've become such warmongers in recent years, especially the radical leftists. They just want violence. They want war. They want just instability across the world. And I don't think that they're happy about this. I really don't, but who knows?
It really began with your trip to the Middle East, where these relationships were forged with partners in the region, personal relationships, close relationships that created the foundation where all of this was possible. Where I think this really took a turn. Remember, a month ago, no one thought this was possible.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, and also not to mention the military contractors, they're probably going to be pissed off about this too. Peace in the Middle East. You know how much money that they're not going to be making in the coming years if that actually plays out? Another one from Secretary Rubio. This one's a bit longer.
I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an
Okay, here, I'll
exaggeration,
skip a
but
little bit.
Personal
It's the same one
relationships,
again.
close relationships that created the foundation where all this was possible. Where I think this really took a turn. Remember, a month ago, no one thought this was possible. Where it really took a turn about a month ago, less than a couple weeks ago, is when we were at the United Nations, and you convened a historic meeting, not simply of Arab countries, but of Muslim-majority countries from around.
Yeah, and they tried everything to try to stop Trump from getting through to everybody in the room, to the point where they stopped the escalator, which was apparently like a national, or well, a presidential security nightmare, because he was stuck on an elevator like basically a sitting duck. But then he gets up to the podium and he had no teleprompters working, which I'm sure they sabotaged purposefully, because why not just hold it up for 15 minutes while they fix the teleprompters? I mean, they could have waited 15 minutes. They've got technical people working there. But then also he gives his entire speech in front of the UN, and then it turns out there was no microphone, or his microphone wasn't working for the entire room. The whole room didn't hear him. Melania Trump was sitting right up there in front, and President Trump asked her how his speech was, and she said, "I didn't hear a word you said," because they cut his mic for the entire time. You think that they would have just ran up there real quick and just flipped the switch or something, but no, they deliberately tried to sabotage his speech. They didn't want his speech to be heard by all of those leaders in the room. But fortunately, I'm assuming that most, if not all, of the Arab nations were listening to their earbuds, and anybody who was listening to their headset, they were able to hear him speaking. So, I mean, it sounds like with regard to the peace deal, that's really what matters.
The world, including Indonesia, was there, Pakistan was there, and created this coalition behind this plan. Then on that following Monday, you met with the Prime Minister of Israel here, and that plan was presented. And then, of course, our great negotiating team followed up on it. In the interim, again, perhaps the stories will be told, perhaps they will never be told. The president had some extraordinary phone calls and meetings that required a high degree of intensity and commitment, and made this happen. And I think what's important to understand is that yesterday what happened was really a human story. There's a geopolitical aspect to it, there's no doubt about it. It creates the conditions for Gaza to one day be a normal place again, and people to have a better life, and Israelis to be safe. But yesterday was a human story. And because of the work you put in, and honestly, not only is there no other leader in the world that could have put this together, Mr. President, but frankly, I don't know of any American president in the modern era that could have made this possible.
No way.
Because of the actions you have taken unrelated to this, and because of who you are and what you've done and how you're viewed. And this weekend, because of that, at some point very soon, we are going to see 20 living human beings emerge from the darkness into the light for the first time in 2 years.
Oh, God willing.
And that is because not only were you used the credibility and the power and the prestige of this office and the relationships you created, and you committed yourself to making it happen. And I think it will go down as a historic moment in the history of our country, and something our country should be very proud of, that we have a president that's committed to not just peace, but to the human aspect of reuniting these families. My last point on this is, just a couple days ago, Secretary Lutnick hosted us all, many of us, at the Kennedy Center. And we have these families, we've interacted with them for so many years, for 2 years now, and the stories are heartbreaking, both whose families are alive and those who are deceased as well, who want their relatives back so that they can complete the process of grieving. And we had all hoped that perhaps that was the day that we would have an announcement for them on the anniversary of the 7th. But I know you were able to speak to some of those families last night. And I just hope the whole nation understands how incredibly proud they should be of their president and of their country for the role that they've played. And I don't want to let this moment pass, Mr. President, without also noting the incredible work of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They're an incredible team working together, facing some substantial impediments to even being there this weekend and doing it. Let me just leave it at that. And they've done a great job on your behalf, Mr. President. They deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But thank you for what you've done for the world. For the world.
Thank you very much, Rose. I appreciate it.
Amen. Amen. Very well said. And the next one, Secretary Burgum. I think he's with the Department of either Energy or Interior. I think he's Interior, right? Yeah. Secretary of the Interior. That's what I thought.
Trump, I just want to double down on what Marco was sharing. It's such a remarkable accomplishment. Agree that no other president could have done this, but what set the groundwork for you able to do that? When you took office on January 20th, you made a 180-degree turn in our military strength with Pete's leadership. You were the master class in peace through strength. So militarily, we've completely turned around. We've demonstrated that through execution against Iran and others, that we have force. We want to end wars, but we'll use power if we have to. And then secondarily, peace through strength is also the prosperity, having the strongest economy and being willing to wield the power of a tariff in addition to the military power to reorder the globe. Those two things that you're standing on, both economic power and military power, allowed these negotiations to go forward. And I think as you've described, the importance of these economic negotiations and all the trade deals, but that also begins with another 180-degree turn, and that was the 180-degree turn on energy. You have used energy diplomacy to bring prosperity to the American people, and you've used it to bring peace abroad. The combination of those three things have been remarkable, and now we're seeing the remarkable result. And we got one more that I know you want to end with Russia and Ukraine. Energy is going to play a key role in that. And now with this historic agreement, we're in a position working with the Middle East to also end the Russian-Ukraine conflict. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's speaking with regard to the Middle East and trying to secure energy contracts with Europe, but we're trying to work with Europe to get their dependence on Russian energy severed and to try to get their energy, I'm assuming from us. I'm sure it would be quite costly if we were to ship it across the ocean. So I'm wondering if maybe they're going to try to work out something with the Middle East to try to see if they can, scale back on their dependence on Russian energy, because it's kind of hilarious that Europe is purchasing weapons from the United States to give to Ukraine, and then they're purchasing energy from Russia, which Russia uses to fight Ukraine. Doesn't make any fucking sense. So anyway, DOW, rapid response, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, he speaks.
President, you're exactly right. At the War Department, you don't get peace without strength. And our job is to be the strength part of the equation and deliver that when necessary, as you demonstrated with your order of Midnight Hammer. And the entire world saw. And I just want to echo what Marco said. It is a personal honor to be able to witness the way you lead and negotiate. I wish people have full understanding of what that looks like, that historic nature. A lot of us vets, the Vice President, Tulsi, Lee, Doug, probably after decades of war and the chaos that was unleashed through reckless and foolish American policies. Never thought this kind of peace
Absolutely.
would be possible. Yet, with your strength, with your ability to wield trade...
Dude, yeah, like imagine going back 20 years ago and saying that the Abraham Accords were going to be a thing. Like, I'm sure they would have been like, there's no fucking way. There's no way. Fuck 20 years ago, like probably 10 years ago.
Negotiations, personal relationships. To open up that opportunity is truly historic on the world stage. And it creates a whole number of other cascading effects. And watching Marco and the Vice President and Steve and Jared, the CIA director, everybody come together to make it happen. You've formed a phenomenal team, Mr. President. And at the War Department, our job is to make sure if and when there's question about American commitment, the whole world knows we've got the biggest, strongest, most lethal, and most ready War Department in the world, which is true, which is why we saw record recruitment in 2025, Mr. President. The first 2 weeks of 2026 already blows that out. FY 2026 already blows it out of the water. In fact, re-enlistment
they want to serve under Trump.
Year-long goal in the Marine Corps in 2026. 2 weeks. Okay.
Wow.
You can't. There's no other way to create that kind of love and enthusiasm than with your leadership, sir. And it is an honor to work with Pam and with Christy and the cities across the country to make sure American citizens and law enforcement are protected with our National Guard. That's a core mission. And last thing, Mr. President, on the southwest border, the first group that rotated in to lock down that border to 0 crossings is now rotating out. And with a new border medal, the Southwest Border Medal, or it's actually called the Mexican Border Medal,
right.
from 1918.
I talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Hitting on their chest. So thank you for renaming the department, and we're trying to live up to it every day. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, they're issuing a new medal. I think they're bringing it back. Like they issued a medal for them protecting the border. Apparently they issued it like decades ago, and then they retired it or something like that. But now they're bringing it back. At least that's my understanding. I could possibly be wrong on that, but I think that's what's going on. So GOP, woke is dead. Columbus Day is back. In other words, we're calling it Columbus Day.
Christopher Columbus obviously
the Italian Americans
discovered the New
will appreciate
World in
that.
1492. He was a great Italian explorer. He sailed his 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, across the Atlantic Ocean and landed in what's today the Caribbean. But this is a particularly important holiday for Italian Americans who celebrate the legacy of Christopher Columbus and the innovation and explorer zeal that he represented.
In other words, we're calling it Columbus Day.
Yes. What was that? Absolutely. And this Mamdani asshole who's going to be mayor of New York City, he's talking about taking down all the Columbus statues. Like, dude, isn't there still a lot of Italian Americans who still live in New York City? I mean, what do they have to say about that? Are any of them voting for this dude? All right. So let me move on to the next one. AG Pam Bondi. She's going to speak now.
Despite the Democrat shutdown of our government, our law enforcement officers are out there working without paychecks, round the clock, to keep and make America safe. Secretary Hegseth and I were recently in Memphis. We had 1,100 law enforcement officers in one room with us. The Memphis PD, they were the happiest to see us, don't you think, Secretary Hegseth, of anyone. We had ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals. I'm not sure if our park police were there. We had Treasury, Secretary Bessent, and of course we had Secretary Noem's Homeland Security,
Kennedy's got that
all
skinny
working
tie on.
together with the Guard. They were
This is
so
a bit
happy to
old-fashioned.
have us there. We've been making arrests left and right. So far, we made 562 arrests and seized 144
Maybe it's the
illegal
angle.
guns just in the short time
I'll
we've
shut
been
up.
in Memphis.
And many of these people are career criminals. And when you take them out of a place, your crime rate just goes down. These people commit crimes every single day. They're sick. And we're taking them out.
constantly.
In some cases, we're bringing them back to their countries where Biden allowed, with the stupid open borders that we had in our country, to come in. But they're being brought back to other places, or they're being put in jail, but they're career criminals.
And if there's another Democrat president, what do you think they're going to do with the border? You think the floodgates are going to open back up? Yeah, you bet your ass they are.
Trump, last night alone, we made 91 arrests, 19 firearms off the streets, and one was a warrant for a homicide, and 4 sex offenders who had active warrants. One was a sex offender on a child. Everything we did in Memphis was worth it, in my opinion, for that one arrest. Think about that. We got a child rapist off the streets, but yet we've made 562 arrests and still going strong in Memphis. Just what we did in D.C. But it's because it's all of us. It's a team working for you to make America safe, all together, round the clock.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pam.
Thank
You're doing
you.
Oh, yeah, keep rocking and rolling. We're going to go on to the next one. Caroline Levitt. Looks like this is going to be an article from the Daily Wire. Yeah, in the next part of the cabinet meeting, it's going to talk about the shutdown and the Democrats stonewalling and everything. So the attacks aren't working. Attempts by D.C. press to drive a wedge in the GOP have failed. I'm sure this plays a part in it. And this is on the Daily Wire. 2 free articles remaining. Oh man, I should have opened that up in a private window, but that's all right. As the media attempt to drive a wedge between congressional Republicans and the White House, a senior House Republican aide tells the Daily Wire the attacks aren't working. On Tuesday, Politico proclaimed that Trump's off-script comments cause shutdown headaches for GOP, saying President Donald Trump, House Speaker Mike Johnson, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune are straining to project a unified front against Democrats. Shortly after the Politico story was published, Punchbowl News reporter Andrew Desiderio posted on X that Schumer calls out Republicans, says they're feeling the heat on Obamacare subsidies and are fractured amid shutdown fights, citing Trump going off message. Dude, the only person that I've heard who's willing to work with them with regard to the Affordable Care Act is Trump. I haven't really heard anybody else say that they're willing to negotiate the Affordable Care Act subsidies other than Trump. And who was that guy? He got into that heated argument with Hakeem Jeffries last night. Totally called out Hakeem Jeffries on his bullshit. He actually came up there with a bill that he put together, and he said that other Republicans had signed it, or they were willing to sign it, but It opens up the Affordable Care Act subsidies, or it prolongs it to another year. So it basically gives, pretty much everything the Democrats want, with the exception of illegal immigrants getting health care. And Hakeem Jeffries didn't want anything to do with it. It was absolutely hilarious to watch. I showed it on last night's episode. So anyway, the Democratic National Committee War Room then published an article on their website Wednesday. Republicans are in shambles over Trump shutdown as Johnson extends House GOP vacation for another week. The article claims that the GOP and White House are scrambling to keep their story straight on Donald Trump's government shutdown. But according to the senior aide, these attacks are falling flat. Congressional Republicans are aligned with the White House on the message, tactics, and resolve in attempts by the D.C. press to drive a wedge have failed. Trump struck a similar note in a Thursday press conference praising Johnson and Thune for their leadership. Both of those guys have been incredible, Trump said, placing the blame for the continued shutdown firmly on the Democrats who started it and are not keeping the government closed like a kamikaze attack. They have nothing to lose, Trump said of the Democrats. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide, Trump said. Yeah, I think they really don't have anything else to lose at this point. Well, obviously, the one thing that they have to lose at this point is just more Democrat voters. That's really all they got to lose at this point. So, I mean, for them to do this, it's kind of reckless, in my opinion, because there's a hell of a lot more Democrat voters who consume government benefits than Republicans, hands down. It's probably an overwhelming majority. Plus, not to mention the vast majority of federal workers who work for the federal government, they vote Democrat as well. So I don't know how Democrats they're posturing like this is a good thing. This is going to help them, secure their win in the midterms. I know they're most likely keeping the government shut down to help with their campaign messaging going into the midterms, because the Republicans, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the Oval Office. The cherry on top is that they also have the Supreme Court. That's what they're going to keep running with, even though it wasn't the Republicans who closed this down at all. In order to get a spending bill passed in Congress, you got to get 60 votes in the Senate. 60. There's not 60 Republicans. There's only, 53. So they need 7 votes from the other side in order to make it happen, and we don't have 7, hence the government shut down. So it is the Democrats' fault. 100% their fault. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is, Trump said, wondering whether Schumer has any power anymore. No, and again, according to Secretary Kennedy, it's apparently Schumer's answering AOC these days. The president said he doesn't know who to speak to and said he's getting calls from Democrats he's never heard of. Dude, that speaks volumes. Who the fuck, so there's no single Democrat, or there's no, trio of Democrats or a pair of Democrats who are consistently working with Trump or talking with them. It's just, he's just getting calls from all kinds of random Democrats. It literally sounds like their party is in chaos and free fall and shambles. It's wild, man. It's absolutely wild. Kicking and screaming, just clamoring for power in any way they possibly can. Quote, I've never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be a leader. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, Trump said. Oh, shit. The House passed a funding bill, H.R. 5371, 11 days before the deadline, but it has yet to pass the Senate. Democratic Senators John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Mastro, and Independent Angus King broke with their party to side with Republicans and vote for the funding bill. So I will link this if you want to take a look at that. There's more to read on it. Senator Rand Paul, he actually voted against the Republicans. He voted on the Democrat side on shutting down the government because he claims that this CR bill adds another $2 trillion to the national deficit. And Rand Paul's like, I'm not signing on anything that adds money to the debt. So I highly respect him for that, at least. I absolutely think that they shouldn't be touching the national deficit no matter what. But that's for a whole nother discussion. So anyway, getting back to the cabinet meeting again, this is going to be Vice President Vance who's speaking next.
Mr. President, first of all, congratulations on yesterday. It was a big day to Marco, to Susie, to the entire team, but in particular, viewing it from this perspective where for months the fake news media attacked you, attacked the entire team, attacked your approach. You know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again, expecting a different result.
Yeah, they're insane.
Because the president actually charted a different course with a different team. He vested a lot of authority in Steve Witkoff in particular, and that's why we're here. It's because you did something different, and I think it's important to recognize that. I also think the president, Marco mentioned the president's personal touch being a big part of this. The one thing I would say is obviously the president of the United States a New York real estate billionaire, one of the most famous New Yorkers in the world, has a lot of interaction with a lot of people who are very pro-Israel. I think that was an important set of experiences and life experiences that he brought to the table. He also, of course, knew one of the most famous Palestinians in the world, Chuck Schumer, and I think without that background, knowledge, it would have been impossible to get us to this. Second thing I would say, just on Chuck Schumer, the president mentioned this, that Chuck Schumer said this has been very good for us this morning about the shutdown. One of the things that we talked about before all the media came in, and that all of us are going to work on for the rest of the day, we've been working on for days, is how to make the shutdown as painless as possible on the American people. So while Chuck Schumer brags about this being good, and I think the president is right, it's not good for him politically as much as he might think that it is. It's causing real consequences for the American people. There's a low-income food program, the WIC program, that my mom actually used when I was a baby. That program is about to be underfunded and is about to get cut off because Chuck Schumer won't open the government. We have troops. The Secretary of War mentioned how well we're doing on recruitment. We're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer is shutting down the U.S. government. There are veterans benefits that are going to suffer. There are Americans that are going to suffer because Chuck Schumer refuses to do his job. So while we're all celebrating this incredible success that we've had on the world stage, the country could be doing so much better if Chuck Schumer did his job and opened the government. Every single Republican, except for Rand Paul, has voted to open the government. A few moderate Democrats, to their credit, have voted with us to open the government. We just need 5 more Democrats to come to their senses and let the people's government serve the American people. I hope that they'll do that.
Yeah, and they're shutting down the government because of the ACA tax credits that they rolled out during the COVID era, and COVID's over. So naturally, it's going to expire at the end of November, but the Democrats insist on just keeping it up forever. They want to keep just giving out ACA tax credits to everybody, even though COVID's completely over. It's not that healthcare is going to skyrocket and double. It will from the point where it was in 2021. It's because of those ACA tax credits that artificially lowered people's premiums who were able to take advantage of that. So what this is going to do, it's just going to allow those tax credits to expire, and then everybody goes back to paying the same amount. Maybe a little more because, yeah, of course, adjusted for inflation, but people are going to have to pay, back to the rate at which they had to pay before COVID happened with regard to the Affordable Care Act. So, and they're shutting down the government over that, all over healthcare. It's absolutely fucking crazy. And then they're trying to blame the Republicans, not only on the shutdown, but they're blaming Republicans because that's why healthcare is so expensive, while conveniently trying to push past the fact that it's Obamacare that really fucked up the insurance industry from the get-go. All right, so from this one, we've got Secretary Wright, who's going to speak next.
Yeah, to follow up on that point, Mr.
Let me turn it
President, the Democrat or Schumer shutdown did not begin 8 or 9 days ago. It began 8 or 9 months ago with your inauguration. For the first time in American history, every Senate-confirmed appointee who are our deputies to run our department, every one of them has been filibustered. One of the critical parts of my department is the National Nuclear Security Administration. It maintains, manufactures our nuclear weapons and our engines for nuclear submarines and nuclear aircraft carriers. We are a key supplier to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. They filibustered, the Democrats filibustered the leader, the administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration, would not let him come into my department until the Republicans 2 weeks ago changed the Senate rules so they could confirm him and we could have a leader. They filibustered the leadership, now they're filibustering the funding. In the next 6-7 days, we're going to run out of funding, and the retooling of our nuclear stockpile, the ultimate guarantor of our sovereignty, is going to be underfunded, and we're going to have to slow down.
Oh, good grief. You probably shouldn't be saying that out in the open.
Just incredibly irresponsible for Schumer to worry about his own reelection and not the 340 million Americans that count on the efforts of our military and all of our departments. It's truly offensive, and we need to bring it to an end as soon as possible. Let's open the government back up.
Isn't that interesting how the press is all here? They've all been invited to speak to or to attend these cabinet meetings that President Trump is holding, and they've been just so anti-Trump for the last decade. But even still, he still allows them to come in and do what they do. That's just baffling to me. All right, so we're going back to President Trump, and he's going to speak again. It looks like this might be also in his opening statement, and I might have placed that in the wrong spot. Oh, no. Okay, I see why I was doing this. This is in regards to the Democrat shutdown. government shutdown, so that's why I placed these where I did.
Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a
Holy moly,
clean,
that's loud, sorry.
nonpartisan bill to reopen our government. And remember, at the same funding
Dude, turn your
levels,
phone off.
both parties have supported in the past. So
That wasn't my phone,
The
that was
radical
in there.
Democrats have chosen to put the economy of our country. We have the best economy we've ever had. We had the best economy in my first term, but we have an economy that's
$1.79
blowing
gas.
away. And we have the Democrats are trying to.
So the
obstruct.
Democrats
They
work
don't
with the
wanna have a
Chinese
good
to drop
economy.
COVID.
I don't think they want to have a good country. That's why they try and stop our law enforcement from doing what we did in Washington, D.C. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a.
Oh, okay, so that was it. I forgot that was a short one. All right, so I got another one. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, talking about them for about a minute and a half.
Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the congressional
The
Democrats
bozos.
are holding the entire federal government hostage. I will tell you, a lot of Democrats
The
want to get
donkeys.
this thing open too. They do. They're calling us, and they just want to get it open. And all we're doing.
Well, look, if they're doing that, you got to let them know this whole healthcare to illegal immigrants is a non-starter. That's a non-starter, and that's the whole point. And also adding $1.5 trillion to the budget, that's also a non-starter. That's just not going to happen. They're asking just so wildly too much. I don't know if they're trying to take a page out of Trump's playbook with regard to like the art of the deal, maybe like drop the bomb and then soften the blow, expecting Republicans to come back and say, no, $1.5 trillion is insane. We'll give you $300 billion or something. But no, dude, like that's not what this is all about at all. You're asking for a bunch of woke insanity, and you're asking to just give free health care to everybody. It's fucking retarded.
They're saying just play the same thing until we get it straight. And they don't know how to go about it. I mean, and the problem is we really don't know who the hell is leading the Democrats. You have this AOC, I don't know her at all, but
she's
I
low
watched her
IQ
the other
though.
day. She said,
"Oh my
well,
God,
they could come to my office." That's not leadership, you know. The only one that challenged her actually was Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy's not looking too good. I don't know what that.
No, she's lost. She's losing her fucking marbles,
But
man.
she's not looking great. But she was the only one, I give her credit, she was the only one that challenged her. But AOC said that they can come to her office and negotiate, the Republicans. And
why?
Say, I didn't know she was in leadership. But she's taking Hakeem Jeffries' place, and Schumer's afraid.
Yeah, but dude, they're acting like they've got the upper hand, dude. They don't. Everybody knows that they've shut down the government. It's crystal clear that they voted against the funding. It's that simple. So that's why they're trying to pivot to Republicans. They're causing your health care to double, and your premiums are going to skyrocket. That's what they're rolling with these days. And of course, a lot of the Democrats are still saying that Republicans shut it down. We didn't do it; they did it. No, it's fucking ridiculous.
She's going to run against him, and right now I don't know. He can change. Life is crazy, right? But now he can't beat. I don't think he can beat anybody. So he'll lose in a primary. I would say he'll retire before he loses
He will.
in a primary.
Scumbag.
So I think Schumer's going to retire because he can't beat anybody. His polls are so bad.
Yeah, dude, all their polls are bad. They're all abysmal. And AOC, look, has she debated anybody before? Because I haven't seen her debate anybody. I don't know if she's capable of debating. And that's a big problem that Democrats have, like especially down on the local level. If they debate Republicans, they're going to get fucking destroyed. Anyway, I mean, yeah, I know, I get it. They do debate on the local level, in different areas of government across the country. I'm just saying, like, they don't have just logic on their side. They don't have facts on their side. They've just got hopes, dreams, feelings, and just psychopathy. Anyway, so Caroline Leavitt, president on the Democrats bragging about hurting Americans.
But Chuck
This is another
Schumer
quick one.
proclaimed this morning that every day gets better for them. No, every day it's actually getting worse for them. And they're having a rebellion in the Democrat Party because they want to stop. And if you saw all of Schumer's, I watched last night like 10 different times over the years, he said, you can't shut down government, you can't shut down. And now he's the one that shut it down. So this is a confession that he's acting not to serve the people, but to serve the partisan interests of his party.
Yeah, man, they're putting political party over American livelihood, and it's absolutely insane, dude. It's very dystopic and pretty nightmarish, frankly, especially if they're gonna get back in power one day. It's definitely a nightmare to behold. So this was also from Caroline Levitt. While federal workers stress over missed paychecks, military families turn to food pantries, and airports around the country face delays, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are bragging that every day gets better for them. What a disgusting and revealing statement. Democrats are gleeful about inflicting pain on the American people. Dude, they're gleeful about any form of violence at all. Whether if it's physical violence, financial violence, whatever kind of violence that you can possibly imagine. So let's see. But as we enter the second week of the standoff, Democrats are nowhere close to buckling. In fact, top Democrats feel like they're gaining political momentum. Like I said, dude, they're not going to, this is just going to go on for months. This is going to shatter the current record of the government being shut down for 35 days, which, of course, the Democrats did during Trump's first term. And I really honestly think this is going to go like 6 months, maybe even longer than that. They just want to inflict as much pain as they can while campaigning and saying that this was all the Republicans' fault the entire time. This is all the Republicans' fault. They did it. We didn't do it. They did it. And they're just also just assuming that their constituency is just going to vote blue no matter who. And I don't know, man, they might be sorely mistaken. Apparently, there were people that were unregistering as Democrats by the droves after what happened to Charlie Kirk, and that's just one instance. I mean, that's also not to mention, when Trump was shot in the head while he was campaigning in 2024, and shortly after that happened, he won. I don't know if I'd say he won by a landslide, but he won every single swing state, and he also won the popular majority, first time Republicans have in 20 years. So, I don't know, man. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier.